Good evening and welcome to True Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. If you or anybody you have known that have had a sighting or encounter, please contact me. I would love to hear from you. As y'all know, I haven't been uploading in a while. I have started a Facebook page doing live, but this is my passion. This is something I always love doing, and that's telling my eyewitnesses encounter. I have started, I'm going to start a Cash App link, to help the show so we can get, better equipment. But I just wanted to get back into telling encounters because I haven't been doing this in a long time, and this is something that I love doing. Last year was a really hard year for me and a whole lot of other people, despite the things that did come out about me, about my past. But like I said, that's my past. My past is my past. But this is 2021, and we just gonna try to make this a better year, and we're gonna make this year count. We're gonna do bigger things. Like I said, we're gonna cover everything. We're not just gonna cover cryptids. We're talking paranormal, ghosts, any kind of cryptid encounter a person have had. You can contact me. You can either come on and tell your own encounter, or you could give it to me and I'll tell it. Like a lot of my eyewitnesses, they rather for me to tell their encounter because that's something I found out that I'm good at, is telling other people encounters. And that's something that my subscribers and my listeners love to listen to. So before I get into this encounter right here, like I said, I done had a lot of encounters. I just stopped uploading them. I just stopped doing them, and they just was just sitting there catching dust, and some of my pack members and some people that I love dearly, they told me, they was like, Marvin, you gotta go back and do something that you good at. Do something that you love to do. Do something that the subscribers are used to you doing. So, and that's telling these encounters, and that's what I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna just start uploading on a regular because, like I said, I love y'all, and I miss doing these. I miss doing these so much. Now, before I get into this encounter right here, I've been had this encounter. Like I said, I just stopped doing them altogether. Why? I was going through a lot. That's no excuse, because this is what kept me grounded. This is what kept me sane. This is what kept me loving what I love to do most. And I'm going to continue to help people, that's coming in contact with these cryptids. Like I said, we covering everything. It's not just cryptids. It's going to be paranormal. We talking ghosts, UFOs. We're going to cover the whole table. We doing it all. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right into this encounter. Now, this encounter right here, like I said, I done had so many encounters. I just stopped, telling them. But this encounter right here, and anonymity, I always use this because I don't use their name. So the name that I'll use for this encounter right here, I'm going to call her Vicky. Now, Vicky was a city girl, She grew up in the big city, She had a good job. But her job came to an end, where she wanted to leave her job. She said she had enough money. She wanted to just buy a house and buy some land and just move, far out in the country. So that's what she did. So while she purchased a home and she purchased the land and stuff like that. She stayed in the city until they got everything ready for her so that she could move in. So the day finally came, well, she, packed up a little bit of stuff that she had, and she moved. She moved into a new home out in the country, and she had some land. Now, on her land, she had a barn. She had a place where she could, plant flowers. She could plant crops and stuff. And that's something that she did. This is something that she did, something that she wanted to do for a long time, because she was always into that, even when she was a city girl, she was always into that. This is something that she always wanted to do. So during the summertime, this is what she did. She planted flowers, and, she planted, some vegetables and stuff like that. And so, now mind you, I told you this barn was already on the property, and it still has stuff in there from the previous owners of the property, like old tractor. They still had, bales of hay and stuff in there, so she just was trying to figure out what could she use it for in the long run. So she said one Saturday morning when she got up, she went out, check on her garden and stuff like that. So she said something caught her attention over by the barn. She could see the door, like kind of swaying. And she said that wasn't no wind blowing out there. It was a nice day. So she walked over there, and when she said she got close to the barn, the door stopped swaying. It just was still. So she goes over there, and she don't go in at first. She listens. She don't hear nothing. So she said she eased open the barn. She said when she eased open that barn, that's when this smell just hit her. She said the smell was horrendous. She said it smelled like urine. She smelled it. It smelled like something was dead. She said she didn't know what it was. So she opened up the door on the barn, and she went and, opened it up so she could let it air out, because she said it smelled real bad, because she didn't really know what to do. So she said what she did was later on, she said she had called a friend, because she did know a couple of people, that lived it down there where she was at, even though she was all the way out in the country. So she called a friend. He came over. They went out there, and she was like, well, what is this smell? He said he looked all around. He said he couldn't find anything. He said, but he did see spots where it looked like something was urinating inside of this barn. He said maybe it's some type of animal or something like that came in here and used the bathroom. But as far as that rotten smell, that foul smell, I don't know what that is, because I didn't see nothing in here dead. So he helped her straighten up in there a little bit. They tried to put something down over the smell so it could knock the smell out and everything. So she said, okay, thanks for doing that for me. So they went back in her house. They sat down and talked a little while. She asked them, did they want something to drink, some tea or coffee or something. So while they were sitting down drinking coffee, they talked, and this and that went back and forth. So she said, okay, thanks for coming out and, doing what you did. And if I need you again, I'll call you. So he finally leave. So she said she was sitting out on her porch later on that day, right when the sun was going down. She said, so while she was sitting out there when the sun went down, she said she heard the door boom, boom, boom. She heard the barn door coming open and slamming back like something was playing with it. She said, so she stood up and she looked over there in that direction. So she looking, she could see the door opening, but she don't see nobody pulling on it. So she watching it. She said all of a sudden the door just swayed all the way open. Boom. And it stayed there. She said, now it's dark when you look inside that barn. It's just pitch black. She said, but when she looked, she said she could see two bright colored eyes, yellow, just looking over in her direction. Now she looking at this, whatever it is, because she don't know what it is, and it's looking over in her direction. And she yells out, who is that? Who's in my barn? She said, then she see the eyes kind of sway. It's like it moved its head, but it's still looking over at her. So she says it again, who's in my barn? So she stood up and she walked down to the bottom of her steps. And when she walked down to the bottom of the steps, the eyes just kept moving further back. And she said when it moved further back, it just popped out of sight. So she just went back up the steps, and she went in the house. She locked her door. When she locked her door, she looked out those front windows and she looked over there at that barn. She said all she could see was this dark figure come out the barn. And these is her words. She said this thing closed the door. She said this bipedal creature closed the door and went back inside the barn. Now she upped in the head because she don't know what it is. She said, but this thing had the head of a wolf. She said, but it was standing up on its back legs, bipedal. So she said this thing closed the door. She closed her curtain. She went upstairs and she went to sleep. She wanted to think. Now, this is what she told me. She wanted to think that her mind was playing tricks on her, that she didn't really see what she saw. So she said she finally went to sleep. She said the next day she gets up, she goes out there, she checks on her plants and she checks on her, her vegetables and stuff. And she looks over there at the barn. And when she looks over there at the barn, the door's closed. Now, mind you, she seen something that night. So part of her scared to go over there and open that door. But she said a part of her wanted to know what was living in her barn. So she walks over there. And on her way over there, she picks up a rake that she had sitting on the side of where her garden was. She picks it up. She takes the rake and grabs the door, and she slings it open and moves back and jumps back. And she looks. The same smell that she smelled before hits her. So she peeps and she looks in, but she don't go in, but she looking in, but she don't see nothing. But all the way in the back, she could see that it's a board that's been tore off. So she can see out the back now. So whatever that thing was must have been using that back to get in. So she called her friend over again. She didn't tell him what it was, but she said, I think this animal been coming through the back. So he fixed that for her. He put it back up and everything. So he said, look, if you have any more problems, just call me. So he leaves. So 2 days pass. Nothing happening. She said the third day, when she was leaving from out her garden to go in the house, that door slings open again. She said when that door slings open again, this creature made its presence. She said this thing walked out and stood in the doorway. She said this thing was massive. Now she know what she looking at. She said this was some type of abomination. This is what she said. She said because this thing should not exist. This thing should not be walking around. So this thing just standing there and it's looking at her. So she backing up towards her steps. So when she get to the steps, her back feet hit the bottom step and then she steps up. But she stopped. But this thing is still looking at her. She said this thing was breathing heavy too. She could see the chest just going in and out. She said this thing was just massive. She said this thing was huge. She said this thing had arms, it had hands, it had a gigantic head, but the legs was that of a dog. So she don't know what she really looking at. So she starts to walk up the steps. She said that when she get to the top of the steps, this thing starts to walk in her direction. She said this thing took about 4 steps. Gigantic steps. And it stopped. Said, and this thing looked at her again. She said that when it looked at her this time, it tilted its head to the left. And it just stared at her. And then it put its head back up. That's when she went inside of her house. And she looked out the window. She said she watched this creature walk over to her steps and then up on her porch. And when it came up on her porch, it did something that scared this lady to death. It turned her knob. She said this thing had the intelligence to how to open up a door. And it's turning the knob. But she had her door locked. But she's still peeping at this thing through the curtain. Then it stands in front of her window. And when it stands in front of her window, it taps. It taps on her glass. Tap. Like it's trying to get her attention. Like it's taunting her. These things ain't crazy. These things are intelligent. They know what they doing. They know how to get to a person. So this thing tapping on her window. She shuts the curtain, but she still can see this dark silhouette through the curtain. So she know it's still there. And she said she held her head down and said, please, can you just go away? This was she saying because she said she didn't know what to do. But that thing didn't move. And then she said the words, oh my God, what am I do? She said, when she said, oh my God, she said she could see this thing step back. And then she started to pray again. And this thing just left. So she said, by speaking them words, this thing must be evil. Because it left. It didn't stay around. And she watched that thing walk and go back in that barn. And when it went in that barn, the door shut. Boom. She said it didn't come back out no more that night. So she called her friend again the next day. And she told him, she said, I don't know what this thing is living in this barn, but I don't want it here. I cannot live here and this thing is on my property. So what he told her to do is to put some floodlights out there. She said, light this whole area up. And when you go in at night, turn these lights on. And that's what she did. Now, she had seen this creature after that, but she said she didn't have a run-in with this creature like she did when she first moved on this property. And I asked her, I said, so did you ever think that something like this existed before you seen it? She said, no, I didn't. So this thing must have been here when I bought this property. The people didn't even tell me nothing about this thing, which they didn't. And I think that if somebody do buy property and they know that it's something living in this area and they know that it could be a harm to the next person that buys it, they should have told this woman everything before she purchased that property, you know. And she said she did talk to these people that she bought this property from, and she said she asked them. And they said they tried to brush her off and say, well, we don't know nothing about this and nothing about that, which is messed up because they knew that this thing was living on their land all this time. And that was her encounter, man. And I just wanted to bring that to y'all. Like I said, I've been had that. I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to upload this encounter. So I hope y'all enjoy it. And like I said, I'm going to be uploading on a regular. So get ready because I'm back.